and through the prism of self-empowerment. You know, as women, it's our privilege, it's been our duty to nurture others. This conversation today, we're talking to two exceptional women about how we nurture ourselves, self-empowerment, because you cannot give what you do not have. And these women will be telling us the lessons that they've gleaned over decades in empowering themselves and other women to be able to be more and do more. So welcome to the Valentine's Day webinar. My name is Hafsat Abiola. I'm president of Women in Africa, and I would like to spend a few moments just to say a few words about women in Africa before we launch a very important conversation. Women in Africa was a dream of yet another special, exceptional woman, Aude d'Autoin, in France. But it was a dream, the seeds of which were given to her by African women. They came to her and asked if she could not use our incredible global network to create a platform of support and empowerment for the women of Africa. The women of Africa, I dare to say, are the most dynamic, the most risk-taking women in the world. 25% for every 4 African women you meet, one of them starts a business. They put so much at risk to try to earn more money, to try to build a pathway to wealth for themselves, for their families, for their communities. But they face such daunting obstacles that we also in Africa lead the world in the proportion of women whose businesses fail. There's skills gaps, there are gaps in accessing credit. There's also traditions that we've brought with us into the modern societies that don't serve women well and reinforce discrimination. And all these burdens turn out to be too much for the African woman, and many times their businesses collapse. Women in Africa was created to be a platform, a bridge between these women and success. Our work is to help to empower, to mentor, to train, to enable women to have access to everything that they need to succeed. We have members in every African country. We take entrepreneurs, we identify entrepreneurs in every African country, we train them, we help with our partners to get them mentored, we help get them access to financing. And with the partnerships that we signed last year in the year 2021 with Coca-Cola Foundation, with the Africa Development Bank, we now are able to support at least 10,000 women each year for the next 3 years in 15 African countries. So it's when you think about the seeds that Aude d'Autoin was given and how we continue to nurture the seeds, I hope you agree with me that we're on the right journey. And I would like now to turn to the wonderful, incredible women that we have with us today. We have Sheikha, High Highness Sheikha Intisar AlSabah, who was born and raised in Kuwait as part of the Kuwaiti royal family. I want to make sure you know that she's part of the Kuwaiti royal family, because when you interact with her very soon, you'll think she's just one of us. And really, she isn't. She comes from the height, the very pinnacle of privilege, but she's one of us because she insists on using all that she has been born with, to serve all the world's people, especially women of the Middle East. And she's doing not the kind of work, you know, in many of our African countries, we have women of privilege who do superficial type work. The Sheikha is not like this, and you will get to meet her very shortly. But let me just tell you a little bit about her. She's a philanthropist, an entrepreneur. She has many businesses. She's an author of several books. She's a film producer of several films that are award-winning films. She's a columnist, and even has been a member of the Association of Journalists in her country for many years. Our mission is to empower children, young people, women to emerge victorious from any ordeal. And that actually connects to her name, Intisar, which means victory. And I hope she will tell us about her name during this conversation. She serves on numerous councils, committees, and boards, and she has created nonprofit organizations that are helping tens of thousands of people. But our target actually is to help many more, and she will share that also with us. She is also really a proponent of positivity and peace. Welcome, Sheikha. We also have with us Dr. Adelheid Onyango. We're going to call her Dr. Adelheid because Mrs. Onyango is her mom, and it will be confusing to her if we call her by that name. Now, she's another really exceptional woman, born in the east of Africa in Kenya. She's the director of the WHO Regional Office for Africa, overseeing universal health coverage. Now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so you know how critically important the work she's doing is. I'm here speaking to you from Nigeria, my country, which I haven't been to in a year. So I feel like I'm in heaven to be back home. And, you know, when the pandemic started, I remember when I read, when it started, I was filled with foreboding. And I kept seeing it going all over the world. And the day I read that it had arrived on the continent of Africa, I sat on my bed and I wept. You know, I just thought with universal health coverage, that's talking about what we don't have in most of the African countries. It's what we don't have. And I just thought, if this pandemic assaults the people of Africa the way it's been assaulting people on other continents, I just couldn't imagine how it would be. So she has been in the forefront of the battle of the WHO to prepare us in Africa, and especially our children, our women, for the perils that lie within the health sector. She directs a cluster of programs that are responsible for promoting population health and well-being throughout the lifetime of populations, and she works in 47 African countries across sectors including climate change, environment, health, social and economic determinants of health, nutrition and food safety, tobacco control, and the prevention of non-communicable diseases. She joined the WHO headquarters in Geneva in 1998, and for more than 16 years has contributed to WHO's work on child growth and nutrition. She enjoys also nurturing young professionals and helping groom them to excel on the issue, pushing, raising awareness about health issues. And so we want to welcome you as well to this webinar. Thank you for joining us today. So now I want to ask the questions that so that we in your audience, the audience that are listening in from all over Africa can have a sense of your thoughts and your insights that you've gleaned from decades of remarkable work. Your Highness, both you and Dr. Onyango have worked in male-dominated environments. You've served on several boards where you were the only woman, and maybe if you were lucky, maybe you had another woman also on the board. And you've had to create your own niche and understand what you bring to the table. What challenges how have you faced this challenge of being the solitary woman or one of few women, and making sure that even in that space that is not used to hearing the female voice, that you could be heard and you could have an impact?
Firstly, is it clear? Okay. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you so much, Hafsat, for the fabulous testimonial you gave for me. And at the end, I always think that when God, the universe, the divine, whatever one wants to call, one wants to name it, when we are given so much and we fail to use it, I think that's the biggest detriment to our power. Being given the name, being given the privilege, been given the intelligence, been given the fortitude, the stamina, the passion, and failing to use it. This is the biggest reason for low self-esteem, I think. And the more I use it, the more I realize why it was given, and the more I, in one way or the other, build my inner dialogue to a nicer inner dialogue than it used to be. And being able to make a difference in anyone's life, including mine, is the pinnacle for me of blessing. And so to be with you, two incredible women. I just wrote on my WhatsApp, I love your fabulousness, Hafsat. I always did, I always do, and I always will. And your ability to articulate what you want to say in such an amazing way, just see, it even slowed me down. And thank you for slowing me down, because my mind was like going, and now I'm slowed down. I'm here with you, totally with you. And I will leave to Dr. Onyango to speak, because otherwise I speak too much.
So much for that beginning. You know, I think you're so right about that inner dialogue, that I think that the inner dialogue that women have is so well developed, and it always is telling us all the things we can't do, all the things we didn't do right, and how we can get the inner dialogue to be more affirming, how we can get it to be more enabling for us to be able to step out into the world and be Wonder Women and Super Women. I think that's the challenge that all women are faced with. And Dr. Adelheid, you have risen through the ranks of the WHO from the beginning in 1998. And the more you rise, the more you look around and see less and less people like you. The more you look around and see yourself increasingly surrounded by men. So that inner dialogue would probably be at another level of vocal, making sure before you open your mouth that really, do you want to say this, Adelheid? And you have to really be able to push through it. Can you share with us how that has been for you? Finding your voice, keeping your voice, protecting your voice through that whole world of knowing that even though your colleagues may appreciate you, you're not really the same. You're not in the boys' club because you're not a boy. And how have you been able to hold to your voice and grow the acceptance of it in that space?
Thank you very much, Hafsat, for that introduction. It's a great privilege for me to be here, sharing the podium with Her Highness. I was telling her that this is a privilege. I come from a village in Western Kenya. And so the fact that Women in Africa is making it possible for this village woman and that princess to be in the same panel says a lot for all of us, the rest of us, who thought perhaps that, privilege comes, you're born with it. And actually, you can be given the opportunities. And I must start by saying, acknowledging the enabling environment in which I work right now. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, the regional director of the WHO in the African region, took office here in 2015. She's the first regional director woman of this organization here for us. So this is a celebration in and of itself. But she came with a vision. She came with the idea of transforming Africa's health ecosystem for improved health outcomes. So very professional. And at the same time, paving the way for reforms in WHO's policies and operations so that women can bring their talents and contribute to making the success of our health adventure in this region. So actually, the person you were speaking about when you were introducing me, you were speaking about Dr. Moeti. She has done great things here in the African region. She determined in this transformation agenda to improve the opportunities for women, capable women, to take their role, to step up and contribute, because we have something to contribute.
Yes.
And so, starting in, when she came in 2015, there was 29% of the workforce here was women. It increased by only 3% to in 2021, so with 33% of the staff are women. But what is very important to take note of is that in the top management, she has actually transformed in such a way that leadership positions, the highest leadership positions, are beginning to be predominantly occupied by women. So right now, in those who are in these categories are up from 24.2% in 2020 to 30.8% by December of last year. And in the executive management at the African Regional Office, there is 9 directors and 5 of them are women.
Wow.
So that is Dr. Moeti's imprint on our organization in this region. I'm afraid I'm going to have to close the window because there are cars making lots of noise.
Actually, it's not disturbing us. Okay. While we're waiting for them to have
Can I reply to your question when you asked in the beginning, how do you deal with being in a boardroom or in a company, wherever you are, being the only female within a group of males? To be honest, being who I am, that always gave me, I didn't have to start from the bottom ladder. Being who I am always gave me leverage. And sometimes I chose not to use it because I didn't think, the imposter, I used to have a very big imposter syndrome. But thinking about it, I mean, going back, I personally, and it could be because of who I am, there hasn't been a lot of, there have been men who have been undermining what I say, and I used to find it very funny because I know they're wrong. And I used to get very offended in the beginning. It's like, why are they saying that? And then I realized they just don't know what I know. And so, the less angry one is because they don't understand, the less, for me, the less I'm able to continue in my way and also to refine the way I present the information to people, especially men. Because if I go in with an attack mode, their defense is going to be an offense also. So I've realized that being a woman, I can be so beautifully manipulative and they just don't get it. So I was a warrior when I was younger. I stopped being a warrior maybe 15 years ago, a little bit more. And now I just realize human beings, you get what you perceive, you get what you think about, you get what you believe. And so when I'm not happy with what's in front of me, I actually just work on my inner beliefs and my inner thoughts. And that for me is the easiest way to change what's in front of me. I can't say, go fight them, gain your right. I can say that. And when you're in your 20s, that might be the best way to go. But it's very tiring. It's very depleting. And, I would suggest to find the easy, most simple way of getting to where you want to go without having the fight, because the fighting just depletes everyone. Sometimes you have to fight, but I prefer not to fight. I'm at the stage of my life where I prefer not to fight. And Dr. Adelheid is smiling, so she gets what I'm saying. You get it at an older age. When we're younger, all, girls and boys, just we think we have to fight for our place in this world, for our voices to be heard, when we just have to work on our beliefs and everything just changes after that.
Do you want to say something about that, Dr. Adelheid? And then I'll come back to that.
And I will tell you why I say that. After Dr. Adelheid
please,
says, I will say, and give testimonials of how that's transpired in the work we do.
That's going to be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Adelheid.
So I think one of the things that I learned very early was that even physically, I was very weak. I couldn't fight.
Oh, nice.
So I had to find arms that were not physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that if you know what you're about, so you need to be professionally, because if it's in the professional circles, you need to be professionally as good as you can be. And then you need to cultivate the confidence of not being derailed when somebody is spoiling for a fight. So just like Her Highness says, don't be provoked. Don't let yourself be provoked. Step back. Step back, because if somebody starts to, when you see that temperatures and temperaments are rising, the best way to calm that down is to actually calm down. If people are shouting, you actually speak softly, because then they have to stop and try to hear what you're saying. And that helps you, and that helps them to come back to where you can speak on the same wavelength. So many times when somebody insists on something that is in fact not correct, if I think that at that point, all they need to do is to feel that they've been dominant, I say, fine, let them be dominant. And then I step back, because usually it doesn't all end there. You still have to go and implement what you have said is going to be implemented. And then, as they say in Old English, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So you will find out that, in fact, things take their place. What is correct claims its place in due course. So the fighting when the heat is too high is actually a waste of energy. And you throw away what is best in you. Take time. Let the shouting stop, and then you say what you have to say with as much equanimity as you can muster, and let that be, the exit to something that is more a resolution, actually. But let's hear from Hafsat, from Her Highness, because she had something to share on that. Thank you.
Yes, Your Highness.
Thank you. I love how you put it so eloquently, Dr. Onyango. At the end, when we change our beliefs, everything changes. And, we work with women affected by trauma and war and disasters, unfortunately. And the Arab world is the region which is the hottest in the world with violence and refugees. So we've had a huge number of successes and stories and testimonials of women when they changed their inner dialogue, when they changed the way they believed about themselves, when they discovered their value, when they discovered their worthiness. And we use drama therapy as a means of psychological support. Drama therapy is a new psychological intervention, and it's basically theater techniques and psychology together, merged into the most engaging way of working with with the population. So it has basically all the arts in it. It has music, it has body movement, and it has also standing up and speaking in front of people. And as we all know, public speaking is one of the top fears in the world. And so when you're speaking in front of people, but even worse, acting, going on stage in front of people, that breaks a lot of barriers that we put on ourselves. And in the Arab world, the culture is women should be hidden, women should be hidden. They shouldn't be in front of everyone. It depends culturally from one region to the other, one country to the other, but it's a predominant thing that women are not encouraged to speak up or to be seen. So what we're doing with drama therapy is the exact opposite of what hundreds of years of culture have done to the women. So you take these women who have been silenced, who have been told not to face or not to come in front of everyone. And what you're doing is you're allowing them, encouraging them, pushing them to stand up and speak, to connect with their emotions, to engage with other women on a different level than they're ever used to doing, to support, to learn the stories of other women, to enact their stories, but also enact the stories of other women. So they get a diverse and huge new feelings that they can now pinpoint and say, yes, this is how I feel, where they didn't feel it before. And being able to feel, acknowledge what's going on in your emotions, in your body, in your thinking, just knowing that you know what's going on is the most empowering thing ever. Because these women come out from, I've been with women that have been severely abused for 16, 18, 20 years, that after 12 sessions have realized, and it's funny in a horrible way, because they've realized they bring the money and they get beaten, and the husband takes the money away. And the realization came after doing 12 sessions. Before that, they didn't even know that they were earning the money. He was taking the money and he was beating them. So again, just realizing small things, listening on a different level, being aware of things just changes one's beliefs and thoughts. So we've had lots of women who have come out of abusive marriages, or a lot of them, and they are the most courageous women, have been able to stop abuse in their marriage, and to also stop abusing their children, because it's a cycle, right? Abused people abuse. And so they've realized that they don't want to continue this behavior. So they take the stand of stopping it on themselves and also on their children. We've had women who have started their own businesses because now they realize they can do it. We've had women who have gone through a trauma and have been in the survival mode for months or years. And with drama therapy, realize that they've almost shedded that shell that they used to protect themselves with. And now they have gone back to work, have started their businesses again. We have artists that have gone back to being artists again. We've had psychologists who, funny enough, even though she's a psychologist, her trauma was so hard that she couldn't go back to being a psychologist except after doing drama therapy. We've had business women. So we've had the whole spectrum, from stay-at-home mothers to business women who've lost their business because of the war or of a disaster, who've realized or realized and realigned with their true self and have come out stronger, more inspiring to other women, and more peaceful. And I mean, that's all. I'm just enamored with drama therapy and theater techniques. I don't know how much it works in Africa because African women are just so flamboyant. They're full of color. They're always there, which is almost a difference or different than Arab women who are much more subdued. So drama therapy has been the best ointment to bringing out the best in women in the Arab world.
Thank you so much, Sheikha, for sharing that process of empowerment that can be, that a crisis can be, they often say, and I study Chinese, I've not gotten to the point of knowing the Chinese word for crisis, but they often tell us that the Chinese word for crisis says
is
danger
opportunity.
And opportunity.
Yeah.
And so you've really built on the opportunities that are inherent in crisis. And the world, as I was saying in the introductory remarks, has been in a 2-year experience of crisis because of the pandemic. And especially on the continent of Africa, although we've not had the impact in terms of the numbers of people dying, the impact on the economies has been incredible.
Yeah.
And we're also not escaping from the shadow pandemic, which is the domestic violence and violence against women. Dr. Adelheid, can you tell us, in all of that, what are the tools that you have been seeing used that work in self-empowerment for people in the context of crisis? Do you think it's possible that theater might be, have you seen that used as a tool, or what do you think are the prospects of using that? Because you said you grew up in a village, and I know I grew up in the city in Lagos, but even here we're so big on theater and music and all of that. So we've one time my own NGO here, Kind, brought this theater performance, the Vagina Monologues, to be performed in Nigeria. This was, I don't know, 15 plus years ago, and it was a huge success. Now we wrote Nigerian women's stories because we wanted to have our own monologues, and those stories are now being performed by another troupe under the name Hearsay, and performed in Scotland, performed at Harvard, across the United States, and also still in Nigeria. So, and Nigerians want to, everybody always thinks, and that's the truth, that we are so flamboyant the way we dress in Africa, but in terms of, in sub-Saharan Africa, but in terms of our values, we're actually quite conservative. And I remember, my mom had 9 children, but I don't know that my mother ever talked to me about sex. It just isn't something families, we're very private and very careful about so many things. So when I first brought the Vagina Monologues to be performed in Nigeria, I was so nervous that how are Nigerians going to take this? But they loved it. And they loved it so much, they were like, no, we want our own stories. They wanted to hear the stories of what is happening for Nigerian people. And so we were able to get stories of what happened to women during the civil war in Nigeria, stories of incest in Nigeria, so many stories that are rarely told. And so I think that theater could have a place, but I wonder, Dr. Onyango, you work in 47 countries, so you have way more experience in terms of using the tools for empowering people in crisis. What have you seen? What can you share with us?
I haven't worked with this directly, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly about the drama therapy, but I think I can speak from the experience of our own cultural experience of African people. Song and dance, there are mourning songs, there are celebratory songs, there are songs for every occasion. And it's, when we were growing up, you sang songs according to what was the expression of, the song was an expression of what was going on inside of you. And if I may bring it down to my own mother, she had a song for every occasion and a song to teach you to do things. So when you've been through trauma, I've been to a few times to Rwanda, and I have seen, I've listened to the songs that they sing, which are extremely, you can feel the therapy in that, in the movement. It's not just the words of the song, it's in the movement, the whole bodily expression of what's going on. It's all encapsulated there. I mean, when we are dealing with crisis, usually we're dealing with crises that need you to save lives and so on and so forth. So actually going back, it's in the reconstruction that we would be able to tap into what is culturally meaningful for those populations, for us to be able to go and dress the wounds, understand what people are experiencing, and support them in ways that really make sense. Connect, let them connect with their pain, their trauma, in a language that is not, from elsewhere, in a language that comes through their folk stories, their relationships, what you say and what you don't say. There's so many culturally nuanced ways of dealing with our problems that sometimes when you come with the solutions from the books, you could miss the point. So I think the listening, and I think we're learning this a lot when we do risk communication and community engagement, that one of the places where we need to begin is in listening to what is there already, because what is there is what is going to be most useful in constructing, in reconstructing what was. Otherwise, if it comes from outside and it's made elsewhere, it may not actually find a place, it may not do the healing that needs. So I'm going to be looking very closely at this, at the drama therapy. And honestly, it's an opening. It's an opening to discover, but it's there already. I think in our culture, it's already there. It's just a question of learning to make it come alive, because unfortunately, even those who are growing up in the villages are not capturing that because our sights are focused elsewhere. So we run the risk also of losing out on what our forebears used in terms of the cultural wealth to deal with problems and pain. And also there is that, which is very much part of women's being, that we share our problems. They say that women live longer because when we have issues, we talk about them and we cry, we express ourselves. It's very important to have the space for that expression, including the expression of anger, because it gets things out of the system. And one has to be angry and not cause harm, because you can also be angry and say things that are going to bring somebody completely down to their to their knees. But it has to be a space where you can feel, you can express, you can get rid of the things in there that are making you shrivel. Let it go, speak it, and if you're speaking in a secure space, somebody will tell you, you are mistaken. You thought this was the situation, but you were mistaken. But you see, you've spoken it, and it's gone out there, and it's an outlet. So all those expressions of in speech, in song, in dance, in everything that gets things out of our system, it's actually, humanly speaking, very healthy to be able to take advantage of them, and that way find our healing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adelheid. I love what you said, that it's all in there. And Sheikha, I think also in the world of the Arab world, it's also all in there. You have, everybody knows Arab music, the dances. I don't know as much about theater, in the Arab culture, but definitely music and dancing. So in a way, it's always all in there. What did you bring that was different?
Okay, so one thing we have to remember that when someone is traumatized, they actually don't dance, or most of the time when there's trauma, when there's war, people actually pull back from enjoying life, right? Or even using dance or music, or even expressing, as the Dr. Adelheid said, expressing their feelings. So when you've gone through a trauma, a crisis, or a war, you shut down because you're in survival mode. That is what we are addressing. We're addressing women in survival mode. And in survival mode, the way to get them out is to get them to speak about their feelings, to engage with other women, to connect on a different level with other women, because there's a safety factor. Number one, you have to bring them into a place of safety. And that's when you engage them. Yes, we also have music, we have dance, we have all of that, but drama therapy is beyond just music and dance. It's about enacting your stories, but also acting other people's stories, other women's stories. You know, one of the biggest changes and biggest breakthroughs we have is when women act the story of another woman, because the way she finds solutions might be so much different. The way, if someone's enacting my life or enacting my problem, the way they find solutions is so different than the way I'm thinking. And this opens a whole portal of different solutions that are from that are given from other women who are in the same group. So it opens the mind to different ways of acting and reacting to your life situation. So that's why I'm a big proponent of drama therapy, because it's not only it de-traumatizes the women, and because it takes on all cognitive, body, and emotions, but it also creates a safe place and a community, and the women continue supporting other women. We stay with them for 12 weeks in the beginning, and then we do follow-ups for a whole year, but we've seen the women continue after that. So the community that's generated also makes the women stronger. So it's not one thing. There's no one solution for anything. What might work in this place might work better or less effective in another place. But the more solutions we have, the more tools that we have, or the more tools that we are able to give survivors. And when I say survivors, I say women or men and children. The more tools we're able to support them in having to release their survival mode and go in their thrival mode is our responsibility. That's it. We have a responsibility to these people.
So I want to confess that I've been hugging you to myself, and there are already questions in the chat, and we are down to the last 16 minutes. So I want to be less selfish and open up so that the audience who are coming from all over the world can also participate in this conversation. Right now, we already have a question from Fatima Zora Akam. She didn't say where she was writing us from, but she said, "Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here." And she said, "I'd love to ask a question, if I may." Yes, you may, Fatima. Our question is, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? And I know both of you have been in situations that would generate a strong feeling of imposter syndrome. So how do you deal with it? What can you tell us?
Oh, I'll answer first, because Fatima, I had the funniest imposter syndrome ever. For someone who's had such a privileged life, my thoughts were just against me. And I did many things, but one of the best ways that worked with me is give the imposter voice a funny name and mock it. Like seriously, it worked with me. My imposter syndrome name is Mr. Empty. And so when, just mock it. And so in the beginning, it was not as easy, and just gets easier with time. When I hear like in the beginning, I couldn't differentiate between the imposter syndrome and me. I thought they were one. And I would catch it maybe every 40 times. I'd catch it once and oh, that's Mr. Empty. Oh my God, you're still there. And I'd make fun and like a dialogue with Mr. Empty. And then with time, catching Mr. Empty was easier and easier. And now every second time I do catch it, and I just find it hilarious because now I'm not engaged. And humor, for anyone who hasn't used humor to grow their self-confidence, you have to, because you cannot be happy and have imposter syndrome at the same time. Try it. So make fun of it, mock it. Don't be unkind, because being unkind, you're actually it's not the right way to do it, but just mock it and make fun of it and diminish it. And with time, it will diminish. And I hope that works, Fatima.
Thank you. Dr. Adelheid, do you have any lessons for her?
I'm not sure that I've dealt with it as a syndrome as such, but I have felt like an imposter sometimes. And what helps me a lot is a recollection of when people have told me, when people have affirmed me, have affirmed what I'm capable of doing. And I look back and I think, I wouldn't want to let her down. I wouldn't want to let him down by this thing. So if they think that I am this thing, it must be true. And so it helps me to go and search for some of those tools that you keep inside, so that, yes, you are here because you can. You are here, you have something to offer. So for me, I think it's been very much the echoes of the encouragement and the challenge, being challenged to really step up, that have helped me to decide, if they think so, I must be able to do this thing, and then to step up and do it. And then that human thing, being able also to laugh at yourself. Really, in this case, at myself. I actually go home and I say, you thought you were you thought you were this or the other thing, and I have a good laugh. And say, but come on, let's go do it. You have been challenged to do it. Let's go do it. So I have those dialogues with myself. It's extremely important to have that, because at the end of the day, it has to keep going, and that keeping going means fueling and refueling it with positive things. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Adelheid. Can I just add one more thing, please, Hafsat? I have 4 daughters, and I have 4 fabulous daughters. I'll rephrase that again. And one of the things I always tell them, and this is one of the things I've learned, is always listen to the kinder voice. So when someone's in front of you and they are kinder in what they say than what you're thinking, and you trust that person, and they're intelligent, and they don't want anything from you, listen to that voice. And if that person in front of you is mean and demeaning, and your inner voice is kinder in what they're saying, then listen to yourself. So I always say, listen to the kinder voice. It's also another, I don't need to do that, but that's one of the ways I used to do it. So as you said, Dr. Adelheid, when someone is saying something really nice to you, why diminish it? And why say, no, it's not true? Because in my head, I say, oh, no, it's not true. Oh, they're just being nice. There's no reason for her to be that nice. She wants nothing from me. So listen to the kinder voice. Works every single time.
Thank you. That's excellent. And both of you have given such useful advice. And I see that there's a lot of response on the chat with people thanking you for the advice. Also, we have a question. Fatima, by the way, is from Morocco. So thank you for joining us from Morocco, Fatima. Now I want to go to a question from Lydia Onitiri, and just, Onititi. And she also, could you tell us where you're writing in from, Lydia? Her question, she said, I love the idea of drama therapy for those women, especially in that culture. How is the society around the women reacting to the change seen in their lives? So perhaps that question is for you, Sheikha. Should I ask you again? You didn't hear me? You're muted, Sheikha.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question again, please,
Yes.
Hafsat?
Yes, it's from Lydia Onititi, and she says, I love the idea of drama therapy for those women, especially in that culture. How is society around the women reacting to the change seen in their lives?
Oh, thank you. I did read that question. So basically, one of the biggest reasons we did drama therapy was because there was such a stigma and shame around psychological support in the Arab world. And so we looked at what was being offered and why people didn't go to what was being offered, including some amazing therapies. And it was because their families wouldn't allow them. What would the neighbors say? What would other people think of them? They had a shame around going and seeking psychological support. So with drama therapy, they actually just go tell their families, oh, we're just going to go get together with some women and have fun. And when it's a very conservative family, they just tell them, we're going there and having fun, we're playing. And with play, no one stops play.
Yes.
And what happens is they come for the session and then they tell all the women in their circle, this is really great, we feel so good. So we get referrals all the time. So we don't even have to advertise for the next session, we just get referrals. So they do tell their families they're going to go have fun. Sometimes they tell them they're going to go and do theater techniques, but not necessarily. So it's all about, oh, we're just going to go get together with some ladies and have fun.
I love that.
And we actually encourage the women not to say everything that goes on to their families and not to also share everything, because, during those 12 to 16 weeks where we're with the women's self-confidence starts increasing. She starts questioning what she didn't question before. And we've had one woman who used to tell her family everything, and then the family stopped her. When I say family, her mothers and brothers, they knew that she was gaining that self-confidence, and they actually stopped her from coming. And so what we say is to the women, you're starting to see the world from a different angle. You're starting to see yourself from a different angle. So keep these to yourself until you're strong enough to reveal them. But for now, just keep them to yourself. You've got this whole room of women who are more than happy to listen to you. Your family are not used to you being so strong. Don't provoke them to stop you. And that's what we tell them.
Very wise. Thank you. Dr. Adelheid, when we spoke yesterday in the prep call, you shared with me that sometimes you're in a room, the only woman sometimes, and you hear something, you don't agree with it, and yet you don't say right away, or even you try to start creating room. You start trying to, almost like the way the farmer prepares the soil for planting. You start preparing the environment for your different point of view. So it's almost like stealth attack, if you use that kind of language. Can you describe that for us? Because many of our women are often You know, women, as I explained in the beginning, African women are entrepreneurs, they're entrepreneurial, they're going and creating businesses, but many times they don't go into fields that are considered male fields of business. And many times that male field of business that they don't go into pays better. I mean, even after the pandemic, we've seen that a lot of the parts of the economy most severely affected were the parts of the economy where women were dominant, like tourism and service industry. And so we need women to go beyond their comfort zone and enter into new fields. So as they enter into new fields, they'll be just like you, the only woman or one of few. How can they prepare the ground for the space to welcome how they're different?
I think, you know, yesterday we were talking about how do you get yourself heard? And when it's a question of an argument, or you are going to express an opinion that is not the predominant opinion, rather than assert your position, I find that a question is actually disarming. Because if you tell somebody what you're saying is rubbish, they will react to it. Like Sheikha said at the beginning, they're going to take it. They're going to want to fight back. But if you ask a question, a very, you know, put it in the mildest way possible. So do you think if we approach this question like this, we might get a different answer? Have you considered an opinion like this other one? Because what you're saying makes sense, but I'm also looking at it from a different angle. And this is the angle that I'm looking at it from, and this is the idea that I had. So what about considering that? And I think when you're in that situation, also not to expect to conquer immediately, but it's the consistency of your calling people to reason that is going to make people feel, we haven't heard from so-and-so. What do you think? I've been in situations where I found that it was very important to be heard, to make your opinion known. And so in discussion, colleagues, male and female, people wanted to, you know, have their word in. And I tended to be, because I didn't know how to jump in and be assertive, I would listen, I would think through. And then when I spoke, I've had several occasions people saying, that the comment you made changed the direction of the conversation. And it's a reward, it's very rewarding, because in a sense, you have made a positive contribution to something that could have gone quite wrong. And at the same time, you are actually gaining that space and giving confidence to those also who will wait to speak when it is going to be most effective, because you also have to look at the situation and think, if I was to speak now, is anybody listening? But when you have assured yourself that you have you have the attention of the people that you're speaking to, then speak.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adelheid.
I love what you said, Dr. Adelheid. If I may just give a little something to the younger women who are watching. We've learned that. You have every right to learn that. You have every right to throw a drama scene. You have every right to get angry, to do whatever you want. You will learn to be wise and get what you want. But in the beginning, if it helps you to throw a scene, throw a scene. If it helps you to raise your voice, raise your voice. Just know that, you know, we have a very good saying in Arabic, do you want the garden keeper or do you want the grapes? If you want the grapes, you will learn how not to engage with the garden keeper. So when I was younger, if someone had told me be wise, I wouldn't have listened. So I say to all women, you have permission not to listen to anything that we say, and discover how to get your voice heard. Discover how to get things done your way. Wisdom will get you there faster. But who says you need to be fast? You just need to be effective in the beginning.
So, you know what I wanted to close. I know there are additional questions and I'll send them to both of you. If you could have some thoughts for Esther and Philo, let me see what her name was. I think it looked like a name, maybe from Madagascar, Fihobiana. She asked about, can you share a testimony about the mental force needed for working women who are pregnant? But if you could add that to the last question that I want to ask you, because I think we need to round up. So my last question, and I would have Dr. Adelheid start the last question because you were the second in the opening question. The question is simply for Dr. Adelheid. In your bio, you said your mother was your greatest teacher. And I was also blessed by an incredible mother who taught me so many things. She died maybe when I was about 21. And I just can imagine when you say your mother was your greatest teacher, that she taught you thousands of things. Of all the things your mother taught you, Dr. Adelheid, what is one thing that you want to share with all the women that are listening today? That's for the question for you. And for our Royal Highness, Sheikha, my question for you, the day you were born, the father of modern Kuwait gave you a name. It was Intisar. And with that name, it continued to play a major role in your life, shaping the woman that you are today. Of all the ways in which such a powerful, great man was an influence in your life, what is one thing that you would like us to take away about the way that men empower women from your experience through him, or maybe just even in general from your experience of men empowering women? So first, Dr. Adelheid, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I had to spend the whole night going through the thousands of things in order to come up with the words. Hard work. So I think one of the, my mother taught me that you should not bequeath enemies to your children. And that means that when you have a fight, you keep them out of that fight, including with their own father. Mm. Because what happens is that you could make up with this man, but that child will not have an opportunity to make up with him. If it's in the work situation, and it's applied also in the work situation, don't get your team into your fights with the other, head of whatever team or whatever it is that you're fighting, because you could be fired tomorrow and your team is going to be under that person. Don't bequeath them enemies, bequeath them friends. Mm. It's very important, therefore, that when we are responsible for somebody, we show them, we open paths for them to be well with everybody. Even if we are not well with those people, that for those that we care for, we protect them. And protecting them is also making sure that we give them friends and helps rather than enemies and rivals and people who are going to tear them down as soon as our protection, our presence is no longer there. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I have 2 gentle children and just came through an experience myself that makes just what you said the perfect thing for me to hear. And I'm sure that it's the perfect thing really for many of the ladies listening today. Thank you very much, Dr. Adelheid. And
sorry, if I may, somebody just made a comment saying they should know your pain. Knowing your pain and taking your place in the fight is different things.
Yeah.
Yes, let them know your pain, but let them also know that they don't have to be you.
No. Thank you. Now, Sheikha.
Very wise words.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've been thinking about what you just said, Hafsat, and I would like to give a controversial answer. It could be controversial to some. It is controversial to me. Everyone in your life can be empowering or disempowering. Depends on how you're aware of it. It could be someone telling you you can't do that, and that's the most power-inducing statement, because the revenge or revenge factor is the most empowering thing. And it could be someone telling you, oh my God, this is so easy, you can do it. And that is also empowering. My late uncle, who named me, actually was very supportive of women. I don't remember any day he said women can't do that. So he doesn't have that mindset of women shouldn't and women should. A lot of other men do. A lot of leaders in all countries do. But isn't that the way we discover what we can do? So it takes one person to put you down or to grow you, to empower you, and they both do the exactly the same. It depends on what you have inside. Do you have the belief that you can revenge? I always, when I come to hire people, I look for the revenge factor. And the revenge factor to me is someone who was in a job, they were so good and they were not appreciated. So when I hire them, they do so well and they discover more and more how good they are. And this is what I call the revenge factor or the avenging factor. So it starts and ends with ourselves. We might be leaning towards people supporting our self-empowerment, or we can say, you know, we're going to be powerful no matter what happens. And that's the strongest pillar of self-confidence, to be powerful no matter what happens. And this starts and ends here. If we think we can do it, we can. If we think we cannot, we can't. So change the way we're thinking. The whole world changes.
So thank you, Dr. Adelheid Onyango. Thank you, Sheikha Intisar AlSabah, for spending doing the Valentine webinar day with me. And, you know, I just want to remind us of the song that Whitney Houston made popular, Greatest Love of All. She said, the greatest love of all is the love that we can have for ourselves. And it's exactly all the tools you've given us in the last hour, over an hour, have been about that, how we can cultivate this love for ourselves. So you said so much, you shared so much that is so rich and incredible. And people are asking for the video. I'm going to be posting this video on all my social media because there's so many tools for people. So I want to thank both of you for your courage, for your integrity, for the work that you're doing in Africa and in the Middle East. And just say that I hope maybe we can find a way to collaborate and do more together. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day, everyone. And thank you for staying with us for the whole time. And happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine, everyone. Enjoy the love. Start with oneself. Love yourself first. Give yourself flowers. Give yourself chocolate. Give yourself love. And then give it to everyone else.